There is a man I want you to think about. He walks into a room, 62 years old, silver at his temples, unhurried in his movements, and without saying a single word, something shifts. Curious women notice him, not because he is the loudest, not because he is performing, but because he carries something in his body that most men half his age have never learned to cultivate. He doesn't grab attention. He earns a presence. And the moment he reaches out to embrace the woman beside him, slowly, deliberately, without apology, you watch her entire nervous system settle. Her shoulders drop. Her breath slows. She leans in, not away. I want you to understand something before we go any further. The fear that haunts so many men as they move through their 50s and 60s, the fear of becoming invisible, of becoming irrelevant, of losing some magnetism they once had. That fear is built on a complete misunderstanding of how attraction actually works for women. Because here is the truth that younger men simply do not have access to yet. They don't have it because it cannot be faked, and it cannot be rushed, and it cannot be purchased. It can only be earned through time, through self-awareness, and through the quiet discipline of emotional mastery. You have a biological advantage, and today I am going to show you exactly how to use it. Dr. John Gottman, after more than 4 decades studying couples at the University of Washington, identified something he called bids for connection, the small, consistent moments of physical and emotional reaching that either build trust or slowly erode it. He found that it isn't the grand gestures that determine the quality of a relationship. It is the micro moments, the brief touch, the pause before speaking, the way a man holds a woman, not for his own comfort, but as an offering of safety. What I am about to share with you today is not a dating tip. It is not a technique in the transactional sense. What it is a map of her primal nervous system, the ancient biological architecture inside every woman that is constantly involuntarily scanning her environment for one question above all others. Am I safe here? Can I trust this man with my softness? Her body is asking this question every single time you touch her. And most men are answering it wrong, not through cruelty, but through ignorance. Today we are going to change that. I am going to walk you through 5 specific shifts in the way you hold a woman, and I want to warn you right now, because point number 4 is the one that generates the most debate in the comments every single time I share it. It is the one men initially resist. It is the one that once they understand it, they say changed everything. So stay with me, because the most important insight in this entire video is coming, and I do not want you to miss it. Let's begin. Point number 1. The approach is the embrace. Most men think the hug begins when the arms wrap around the body. It does not. The embrace begins the moment you start moving toward her. Here is the mistake. You are across the room, you see her, and you move quickly, arms already opening, already reaching, momentum carrying you forward before she has even had a moment to register your approach. It feels enthusiastic. It feels warm. You mean it as warmth. But here is the psychological translation. Her subconscious calculation, and this is happening beneath her conscious awareness, beneath language, in the oldest part of her brain, registers sudden, fast-moving approach as a mild threat signal. Not fear necessarily, but a spike, a tightening. Her nervous system braces slightly before it can open, and she may smile, she may hug you back, but something has already been lost in that micro moment. She has been startled open, rather than invited open. Those are not the same experiences. The fix is simple, and requires nothing but intention. Slow down 3 full steps before you reach her. Let your pace drop. Let your eyes meet hers. Take 1 visible breath. That single, slow, visible exhale as you approach, communicates something her nervous system reads as profoundly as language. It says, I am not rushing. I am not talking. I am arriving. There is a difference between a man who takes a hug and a man who offers one. Learn to offer. Point number 2. Duration is the message. The mistake here is brevity disguised as politeness. Many men, especially men who have been trained by culture to not impose, to not linger, to not make things uncomfortable, have learned to hug quickly. A pat on the back, a squeeze, a release. Efficient, tidy, safe. But here is what that brevity is actually communicating to her. When a hug ends in 2 or 3 seconds, her subconscious is reading one of two things. Either you are uncomfortable with emotional closeness, or she is not worth lingering for. Neither reading creates desire. Neither reading creates the sense of being deeply wanted. The research behind the 20-second embrace is not metaphor. It is biochemistry. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone that creates feelings of trust, safety, and attachment, requires sustained physical contact to release at meaningful levels. Brief touch stimulates the skin. Sustained touch changes the neurochemical environment. 20 seconds is approximately the threshold at which her body begins to genuinely regulate toward calm, toward openness, toward you. This is not just a touch. This is a biological symphony, her nervous system beginning to harmonize with yours, if you are patient enough to allow it. The fix. When you embrace her, do not begin mentally calculating when to release. Instead, when you first feel her body against yours, take one slow breath in and release it slowly. Feel the weight of her. Let yourself arrive in the moment fully. Let her feel that you are not already half gone. Most women spend their entire lives being held by men who are already somewhere else. A man who is completely present in the embrace, unhurried, solid, real, is an experience so rare it registers as profound. Point number 3. Where you place your hands tells her who you are. I want to be direct with you here because this is a point many men find uncomfortable to examine. The mistake is placement driven by your desire rather than her safety. Hands that drift too low too quickly. Hands that grip rather than hold. Hands that are restless, adjusting, searching. She feels all of it. Every single movement of your hands during an embrace is being read by her nervous system as data. The psychological translation is this. Hand placement is one of the clearest signals of a man's emotional intention. Joe Navarro, the former FBI behavioral analyst and author of What Every Body Is Saying, has written extensively about how touch communicates dominance, affection, control, or care through placement and pressure alone. A woman's body is extraordinarily well calibrated to read these signals. She may not be able to articulate what made her feel uncomfortable, but she felt it. The fix is deliberate stillness. When you embrace her, place one hand at her upper back between her shoulder blades, with gentle, firm, flat palm contact. This is the zone of protection. This is where a parent holds a frightened child. This is where safety lives in the body's memory. Your other hand can rest at the middle of her back. Then be still. No patting, no rubbing unless she initiates that softness. Just the steady, warm, unwavering pressure of a man who is completely present and completely trustworthy. Stillness in a touch communicates certainty, and certainty is one of the most underrated elements of masculine attraction. Point number 4. And here we are. This is the one. This is the point that men argue with me about in the comments every single week. This is the point that initially sounds counterintuitive and possibly even uncomfortable, and it is by far the most powerful shift you can make in the way you hold a woman. The point is this: the most attractive thing you can do during an embrace is speak. I don't mean talking through the hug. I don't mean filling silence because you're uncomfortable with it. I mean something very specific, and I want you to hear it precisely. The mistake is silence born from emotional withholding. Many men, particularly mature men who were raised in cultures that equated emotional expression with weakness, have learned to let physical gestures stand alone. The hug is the hug. Words are separate. Don't over-explain. Don't be soft. Don't say too much. But here is the translation. Women experience a phenomenon that relationship therapist Esther Perel describes as the fundamental tension between security and desire. They need to feel safe. But safety alone does not create desire. What creates desire is the experience of being seen, deeply, specifically, intentionally seen, while simultaneously feeling safe. When a man holds a woman in silence, she receives warmth. When a man holds a woman and says her name, softly, or says something true and specific about how he sees her in that moment, she experiences something neurologically distinct. She experiences psychological exposure, the rare and powerful sensation of being genuinely known by someone who chooses to stay. That combination, physical safety and emotional visibility, is the formula that creates profound attraction in women. It is the formula that younger men do not yet understand because it requires a depth of self-possession they have not yet developed. The fix is one sentence. It does not need to be poetic. It does not need to be crafted. In the middle of the embrace, after the first few seconds of stillness, you can say her name quietly. You can say, "I'm glad you're here." You can say, "I've got you." 3 words, 4 words, spoken softly, into the warmth of the embrace, with no performance and no agenda. Just the truth. When a woman hears her name spoken that way, close, private, unhurried, something activates in her that no grand romantic gesture can replicate. She feels safe. She feels seen. She feels cherished. Safe, seen, and cherished. That is the trifecta. That is what rewires emotional attraction, at the level below conscious thought. Point number 5. How you release her is how she will remember you. The ending of an embrace is something almost no one talks about, and it is doing significant emotional work that most men are completely unconscious of. The mistake is the abrupt release, pulling back suddenly, already moving on to the next thing, shifting immediately into logistics or laughter or the practical noise of whatever comes next. She goes from being held to being let go in a single moment, and that transition carries information. The psychological translation, the way you end physical contact, tells her how much the contact meant to you. An abrupt release registers subconsciously as, "That was functional. It served a purpose. We are done now." It is the emotional equivalent of ending a meaningful conversation by looking at your phone. The fix is a 2-part exit. First, before you pull back, apply one gentle, deliberate increase in pressure, not a grip, not a squeeze that startles, but a brief, conscious deepening of the hold. Just 1 or 2 seconds. This communicates, "I am choosing to release you. I am not relieved to step away. I am choosing this." Then, as you step back, maintain eye contact for 1 full breath before looking away. Do not be the first to look down. Let her see that what just happened mattered. Let her see that she mattered. The memory of an embrace lives in how it ended. Give her an ending she can carry. Now I want to return to something I said earlier, because it is too important to leave unaddressed. She is an emotional lie detector. Everything I have shared with you today, the slow approach, the duration, the stillness of your hands, the quiet words, the intentional release, none of it works if it is a performance. Women are extraordinarily attuned to congruence, to the alignment between what a man's body is communicating and what he actually feels. They have been reading this alignment their entire lives, not because they are suspicious, but because they have had to be, because the world has not always been safe for them, and their nervous systems learned early to check whether the warmth being offered is real. So when I talk about presence, I am not talking about a technique you layer over disconnection. I am talking about actually arriving, actually deciding that this person, in this moment, is worth your full attention. The masculine force that she is biologically drawn to is not aggression, and it is not performance. It is an initiative grounded in genuine care. It is the willingness to reach, to hold, to speak, to stay, not because you need her approval, but because you choose to offer your fullness. Sexual polarity, the dynamic that keeps desire alive in long-term relationships, is not created by playing games. It is created by a man who is so settled in himself that his steadiness becomes magnetic. When you hold a woman without urgency, without agenda, without the subtle vibration of neediness, when you hold her as a man who has nothing to prove and everything to give, she feels it in her biology. Her body responds not to your performance but to your reality. Be real, the rest follows. If any of this landed with you today, if you recognize something in your own patterns, or if you felt something shift in your understanding of what it means to be a mature man in a relationship, I want you to do something simple. Go to the comments right now and write 1 word, cherish. That's it, just that word. It tells me you are here. It tells me you are the kind of man who takes this seriously, and it helps this conversation reach other men who need it. Because here is the truth. Everything I have shared with you today, the approach, the duration, the placement, the words, the release, is only half of the equation. Understanding the psychology of the embrace is one thing. Translating that understanding into the full architecture of physical connection, how your body moves with hers, how closeness becomes intimacy, how intimacy becomes the kind of desire that doesn't fade, that is the next level. And that is exactly what the next video covers. It is called How to Hug Her So She Never Wants to Let Go. And it takes everything we discussed today and shows you precisely how to embody it, not just understand it. Watch that next. The information is waiting for you. Because the man who walks into a room and commands presence without a word, the man whose embrace makes a woman feel, perhaps for the first time in a long time, genuinely safe and genuinely seen, that man is not a myth. He is who you are becoming.